coming up tonight on VCU InSight.
I'm Amber Wishy, and I'll tell you how a surgeon and lawmaker are trying to put an end to the opioid epidemic in Virginia.
One social media giant many of us use every day is coming to the area. I'm Bradford Ambrose at the state capitol. I'll tell you which one coming up.
Imagine not knowing whether your family was alive or dead. I'm Gabriella Lacombe, and up next, I'll tell you how one Richmond man's connection to Puerto Rico led to him raising money for hurricane relief efforts.
All this and more?
VCU InSight starts right now.
From the Richard T. Robertson School of Media and Culture at Virginia Commonwealth University, named Best Student Newscast in the Mid-Atlantic, this is VCU InSight.
Good evening and welcome to VCU InSight. I'm Caitlin Moody.
And I'm Sierra Brown. Thanks for joining us.
It's a shocking number. Over 1,000 Virginians have died from opioid overdoses since 2016 here in the city of Richmond. Authorities respond to nearly 20 overdoses a week. Experts tell us that the deaths come from prescription pills and heroin. Amber Wishy has a close-up look at how these drugs have torn apart one local family.
The opioid epidemic in Virginia has no boundaries. It's affected people of different races and ages, the rich and the poor, and the son of a VCU facial and oral surgeon.
I never thought Adam would ever use heroin.
Dr. Omar Abu Bakr's 21-year-old son, Adam, a former volunteer firefighter, died of a heroin overdose after being in recovery for 10 months. His addiction started with painkillers he was prescribed for an injury.
I have vivid memories of every second of that morning. Got a call from the cop. It's the worst thing that any parents would have to go through.
4 out of 5 heroin users started with prescription medication.
The medical profession, with good intention, impacted the epidemic negatively. 2 tablets are good for your pain, maybe 4 is better.
Since 2017, the Richmond Ambulance Authority has responded to a little over 600 calls related to opioid overdoses in the city. Rob Lawrence, Chief Operating Officer of the Richmond Ambulance Authority, says the opioid epidemic isn't just about addiction.
It's a medical condition. It's actually a condition that's affecting the brain. Right now we're seeing between 15 to 20 overdose calls a week.
Virginia Delegate John Bell, whose son was a former heroin user, advocates for bills that would help end the opioid epidemic. Lawmakers passed a law restricting the amount of prescribed painkillers given in emergency rooms.
We reduced it to 14 days. Versus before, it could be an unlimited amount with refills.
Lawmakers also approved funding for Narcan, the safe shot that first responders in Virginia use to revive those who have overdosed. Despite all efforts to end the epidemic, this really hits home for a lot of Americans. For VCU InSight, I'm Amber Wishy.
The Richmond Ambulance Authority says the average age of people overdosing in the city is 40 years old. According to the state, accidental deaths from opioid overdose have surpassed car and gun accidents in Virginia.
As grim as the opioid addiction is here in Virginia, there is still hope. Some addicts are fighting their addiction with the help of recovery programs while also attempting to help others caught in the spiral of opioid and heroin abuse. VCU InSight's Gabrielle Randolph profiles 2 local survivors of this national health emergency sweeping the nation.
I was about 10 or 11 years old. I got into the family liquor cabinet and experimented with some whiskey and got drunk.
Sam started abusing substances at a young age. He has now been in recovery for 8 years.
Not only is this an ongoing problem in America, but it's happening right here in Richmond. I sat down with the founder of Broad Highway Recovery, Sam Davis, who told me his story, how he got off drugs and now is trying to help others do the same.
My father was diagnosed with a brain tumor in 2005. I tried pain pills before, but the pain pills took off.
Megan Powell, who says she took painkillers more than 4 to 5 times a day, has now been sober for 2.5 years. Officer Ronnie Armstead, captain of the drug unit in Richmond, talks about the dangers of getting these drugs off the streets because of what they could be mixed with.
Fentanyl, carfentanil, which is, both of them are very lethal agents when mixed with other drugs or just taken straight.
Sam says despite everything he's been through, he's grateful that he was an addict.
I have tools to deal with life today that normal people sometimes don't have. With direction, I'm able to see where I show up into the world, and when I don't show up the way that I should show up, I have tools to see my truth and get out of it and show up a different way.
With VCU InSight, I'm Gabrielle Randolph.
Thanks, Gabrielle. 59 dead and dozens still in recovery today after a gunman opened fire on a crowd at a country music concert behind Las Vegas's Mandalay Bay Hotel on Sunday, October 1st. Since then, big questions about firearm policies and stricter gun controls have come up in Congress. VCU InSight's Jordan Howard gives us an overview of Virginia's firearm policies. Thank you for being here with us, Jordan.
Thank you, Caitlin. The Las Vegas shooting has sadly been labeled U.S.'s deadliest shooting yet, and now people are asking about gun laws here in Virginia, especially since Governor Terry McAuliffe has announced that his public safety team is working on gun safety legislation. According to the Las Vegas Police Department, they found 23 firearms in Stephen Paddock's hotel room. At least 12 were semi-automatic guns turned into automatic-like weapons by attaching a device called a bump stock. According to the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, here in Virginia it is legal for anyone 18 or older to possess semi-automatic weapons and bump stocks, like those used by Paddock. Automatic weapons are also legal in Virginia. According to the National Rifle Association, machine guns and fully automatic weapons are defined as firing rounds of ammunition even after a person releases the trigger. In Virginia, these must be registered with the Department of the State Police within 24 hours of acquisition. Semi-automatics are not required to be registered in Virginia. According to the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, there is no federal or state law that limits the number of firearms purchased. However, federal firearm licensees are required to report multiple sales of handguns to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Now, according to the Virginia State Police, buyers are subjected to a criminal background check when they purchase a gun, whether from a licensed firearms dealer or at a gun show. These background checks could take as little as 5 minutes if everything checks out okay. However, a background check is not needed if it's a private citizen sale. Congress is looking closely at whether bump stocks should be legal to purchase in the United States. Bump stocks are attachments that alter a semi-automatic weapon so that it fires continuously like an automatic weapon would. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders says President Donald Trump is open to discussing a bump stock ban. However, as of right now, everything Stephen Paddock used in the Vegas shooting is legal to possess in Virginia.
Well, thank you, Jordan. If you want to know more about Virginia's firearm policies, you can check out the Virginia State Police's website at www.vsp.state.vs.us. Looks like Facebook is checking into Richmond. We'll tell you more about a brand new data facility here in Henrico.
And a local Richmond artist holds an exhibit to fundraise money for Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria.
Have you ever heard of a nonprofit organization being the brains behind other nonprofit organizations? Well, VCU senior Christian White is a mastermind behind making nonprofit organizations more efficient. VCU InSight's Jasmine Stith is here in studio with Christian to learn more. Jasmine?
Thanks, guys. I'm here with VCU senior Christian White, who's majoring in information systems and is the founder of the Bridge Collective, which is a nonprofit organization that takes the stress off of other organizations who are developing new innovative ideas. Hi, Christian. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, how are you?
Great. So what inspired you to start the Bridge Collective, helping other nonprofits?
Well, I've been very passionate about helping to develop other communities since I was a kid. I always spent time researching and filling up ideas with notebooks about how we could be more effective.
So can you explain the process of you designing a program, testing it out, and giving it to another nonprofit organization?
So the process behind the design of each program is very unique because we do a wide range. But specifically for one we did to address the disparity of women in STEM, we started with this idea that there was a problem first. We looked online to see what research was available, and fortunately for this particular issue, there was a lot of research available. After that, we thought, what is the main thing we could do to help? And in this case, it was how can we expose more women at a younger age to engineering.
So why women?
So there is a disparity between the amount of women versus men in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics related fields. We believe that, or there's a lot of evidence that suggests that based off of what children are exposed to at a younger age, it causes them to feel confident or less confident of which career they can enter in. So specifically for women, you see there are a lot of advertisements and marketing for toys related to the home, but not too much in more science heavy related fields.
So can you explain your first clients as the Dare to...
Yeah, so the Dare to Dream program was the program addressing that disparity. Right now we're working with the church in North Carolina that received a STEM grant, and we're helping them to implement that program. So basically we'll be using this technology called a snap circuit set. And we built a simulation around this technology where we put the girls in the position of engineers at an amusement park.
So can you explain the process and the programs that you help the girls go through?
So a girl will come in, they'll be placed in a room where they're being facilitated by other women that look like them. They're introduced to different concepts in science and engineering. We give them, hard hats, all the typical role-playing type devices. They get a little certificate at the end that says junior engineer, and we just try to make learning about the circuit board as engaging and as fun as possible.
All right. Well, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you for having me.
I've been speaking with VCU senior Christian White. Thank you so much for joining us. Now back to the desk.
Facebook accepts Virginia's friend request. Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe announced the social media giant will invest $1 billion in the state, a deal more than 3 years in the making. Bradford Ambrose has more from the state capitol.
Facebook has hit the like button for Henrico County. Virginia State Governor Terry McAuliffe, along with state and local officials, announced Facebook will build a new data facility in the eastern part of the county.
I am proud to announce that the great company of Facebook will invest $1 billion here in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
$750 million. That's how much Facebook is directly investing into this new 970,000 square foot facility at the White Oak Technology Park. The new data center will be powered by 100% renewable energy. $250,000 will be invested to create new solar facilities to power the new building. The project will bring more than 1,000 construction jobs with it.
This is the first time in a long time I've had local persons coming to me saying they're excited about being put to work.
Tyrone Nelson is the Board of Supervisor representative for the Varina District, the area the new facility will be located in. County leaders say one reason Henrico was able to snatch the deal was by drastically dropping property taxes for data facilities located in the county. Effective July 1st, tax rates plummeted from $3.50 per $100 of assessed value to 40 cents per $100 of assessed value. Reginald McKnight with Facebook says the company is eager to begin partnerships with area schools.
We certainly want to have those conversations to figure out how we can best get involved. And I think part of that is asking the students, how we best can get involved in that process.
Leaders say more than 100 people will work in the facility once completed.
I would say this to Henrico County and to the neighboring other counties around here. This is a gigantic boom for you. This is a gigantic moneymaker. And because you have this data center, you now will have the ability of bringing other technologically related companies to your county.
The project is set to be completed in 2019. At the state capitol, Bradford Ambrose, VCU InSight.
Several other companies call White Oak Technology Park home, including Lumber Liquidators, Bank of America, and the United States Postal Service.
New changes to a Title IX law, a law that protects gender equality on university campuses, promises more protections for those accused in sexual assault cases. The controversial change does not sit well with everybody. VCU InSight's reporter Seoni Hughley talks to a sexual assault victim who doesn't agree with the changes.
I had some vaginal tearing.
That's the voice of a VCU student who says she was raped and wishes to remain anonymous and go by her middle name, Nicole. She's one sexual assault survivor directly affected by Title IX. According to a Q&A released by the Department of Education earlier this month, a college could elect to allow a perpetrator accused of sexual assault or an alleged one to appeal the decision made against them, but they will not allow an accuser the same right. Nicole says she's worried that the new changes being made at the university level to Title IX puts the victim back on trial.
Now that the accused is able to repeal it, it could take several years. This person's life is just never going to go back to normal. It never will.
VCU's Title IX Director and Equity and Access Coordinator, Laura Ruggles, explains how VCU handles sexual assault.
It starts with reporting that information, and then we have very careful outreach so the person is aware of all of their options, both for taking care of their own safety, their well-being, both medical and mental. And then we have an investigation process.
Ruggles says VCU has a very cutting-edge sexual misconduct, violence, and sex gender discrimination policy. Despite changes on the federal level, Ruggles says,
I'm not anticipating any major changes here at VCU.
Seoni Hughley for VCU InSight.
In a statement, VCU President Dr. Michael Rao's office said VCU will be a place of inclusion and trust. For more information on Title IX, you can visit the Equity and Access Office located on Grove Avenue.
Richmond is no stranger to gun violence, but a new partnership with Project Safe Neighborhoods is here to help. Almost 500,000 are victims of gun violence each year in the United States, according to Respect Richmond's official website. Virginia's Attorney General, Richmond Police, and the mayor launched the campaign to help prevent gun, gang, and other violent crimes, according to Respect Richmond. The goal is to send social media messages directly to neighborhoods prone to gun violence. If you have a tip about gang activity, illegal guns, or drugs, contact Richmond Crime Stoppers at 804-780-1000.
Flooded roads, destroyed energy grids, and restricted access to crucial medical care. This is what Puerto Ricans are going through right now following the devastation of Hurricanes Irma and Maria. People around the U.S. have been sending relief, and one Richmonder with the connection to the island is doing his part with art. Gabriella Lacombe has more.
The descent into that level of desperation and suffering.
Musician and artist Ray Alvarez, born in Puerto Rico, still has family on the island. He said he waited almost 2 weeks before he learned his parents were safe.
It was scary. It was scary to not be able to communicate with them and to, little by little get a sense of the damage.
Flooded roads, dirty water. Ray said there was nothing he could do but watch the news as his family and the people of Puerto Rico took desperate action.
Everybody's collecting rainwater. Yeah. Having no power is one thing. Having no running water is another.
The storms have passed, but Alvarez says the road to recovery has only just begun. So he teamed up with local restaurant The Savory Grain for a night of art and live music, with all the proceeds being donated to hurricane relief. The walls of The Savory Grain were decked out in 15 of Alvarez's own paintings, all inspired by Puerto Rico and all for sale. After browsing the artwork, guests packed the house to listen to Alvarez play in Turkish pop band Yeni Nostalji and perform a live DJ set. By the end of the night, Alvarez had raised more than $1,000 to donate.
The chance to actually sell a bunch of artwork and have it go to, something that I care so much about. Nothing could be better.
For VCU InSight, I'm Gabriella Lacombe.
Alvarez says he'll be donating the money to a variety of charities. You can find out more by visiting his Instagram page at instagram.com/Ratanicus, where he has the charities listed in his bio. Coming up, we'll tell you how many women lose the fight to breast cancer every year, and the number will surprise you.
we've never been very good at sitting still. Maybe that's why we built our campus in the middle of a city. Why we put our classrooms on riverbanks, in Fortune 500 companies, even on stage. At Virginia Commonwealth University, learning happens everywhere. What matters most is how you make it real.
Human rights commissions exist on the local level to investigate human rights violations. Alexandria, Virginia Beach, and Charlottesville all have human rights commissions, and Alexis Hughes sat down with one VCU student who is hoping to add Richmond to the list.
Thanks, Caitlin. I'm here with Rakia Taylor, a VCU student who started pushing for a Human Rights Commission in Richmond after she served with the Newport News Virginia Human Rights Commission and has helped the City Council put together a proposal to start one here in the city. Rakia, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So how did you get involved with the Newport News Human Task Force?
Okay, well, I got involved with the Richmond City Task Force by meeting Councilwoman Ellen Robertson at a festival. I had expressed to her that I wanted to join the Human Rights Commission, but there wasn't one here to join. And so we met, and her, as well as Councilman Agelesto, put in an ordinance to establish a task force. And I actually served as a high school member on the City Human Rights Commission for Newport News. And so that was my motivation for wanting to join one here.
Okay, so in high school you served on that in Newport News. So what kind of complaints were you getting in Newport News?
So the Newport News Human Rights Commission was actually ran through their housing agency. And so a lot of the complaints we've seen were mostly racial discrimination when wanting to apply for housing. But we also got racial discrimination complaints in public accommodations. And so those were some of the things that we've seen. And we also did research in other Human Rights Commission in the state of Virginia and really looked at the type of complaints that they got. And we sat down and did the research with that. We wanted to say, okay, well, what would it look like for Richmond? And that was the point of the task force, is to evaluate the need for a Human Rights Commission in Richmond. And then what would it look like? Because obviously Richmond is not Newport News. And so, you know, what are the needs for Richmond according to the Human Rights Act that does cover discrimination, like racial discrimination, disabilities, but it doesn't cover things like gender and sexual identity. And so, you know, that was really, you know, our drive, is like to see, well, what are people being discriminated against? Are people being discriminated? And so some of the ways that we did that was we held 2 citywide public forums where we allowed members of the community to come out, express their want and need, or, you know, if they didn't feel like we needed one, and then why or why not. And we also had a citywide survey that also covered some of those same questions as well. And so with the results of both of those, we were able to put in a recommendation to council. And we did recommend that Richmond needs a Human Rights Commission. And we also recommended what we felt would be best for the city of Richmond. Would it look like a body that investigates themselves? Would it look like a body that just served kind of as a pre-filing agency for the EEOC? Would it look like just an education base or resource broker? You know, if someone comes to us with a complaint, are we just going to provide them resources? Do we look like just a link on the city's website? And so those were some of the things that we looked at.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us, Rakia. Back to desk.
Breast cancer will kill more than 40,000 women this year, according to the Susan G. Komen organization, making it one of the leading causes of death among women. Because of this, the organization encourages women to be proactive when it comes to their breast health. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month and the time to wear pink in support of those who have survived this illness. This trend has become more common in the last decade. Dr. Keith Roberts, a physician at Riverview Physicians for Women in Colonial Heights, says breast exams can be one of the many ways to prevent breast cancer.
The biggest ones, one is exercise, maintaining a healthy lifestyle and diet, limiting alcohol intake. And if you do have a family history, then make sure that you get screening earlier and know your family history.
Go to the American Cancer Society webpage for more information about the events coming to Richmond this month.
The County of Henrico held their annual Community Day on Saturday, October 7th, as a way to bring the community together with events and entertainment for the whole family. Meet and greets, music, and tours of emergency vehicles were just a few features of this year's event, according to Henrico County's website. In addition, the Henrico County Public Library POW program and other groups had booths set up to provide guests with information and games. The Henrico County Police, Security, and Fire Departments put on demonstrations and interactive displays for kids and families. Those that ran the event and attended it says it was a way to celebrate the community of Henrico and all that it has to offer, especially during some of the recent times of tragedy in our country has experienced.
And that does it for this edition of VCU InSight.
Make sure to check out our website at insight.vcu.edu.
You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under VCU InSight. Contact us with any stories you would like to see on our show.
And if you missed our show or would like to watch it again, you can find us on YouTube at VCU InSight. Thanks for watching. I'm Caitlin Moody.
And I'm Sierra Brown. We'll see you next time.